We're learning
So
how to
we're
do this.
recording now.
So I think we'll start off with, or continue on, but actually for those that we're going to be recording for, mindfulness as a way of being spiritual in our day-to-day living. And mindful mean allowing our mind to embrace the moment-to-moment life experience we're having, rather than having our mind be set on what it could be like, what it should be like, what at times it has been like. And that constant assessment and judgment and comparison, along with I need to get this done so that I can do something else later, steals from us our ability to experience the moment, moment to moment.
Mhm.
And that moment to moment aliveness that we can experience is transformative. It's powerful.
So I just want to go back for the recording and say what we're talking about is meaning, the meaning we attribute to life and what's going on right now. Because it's so easy to get into condemnation and ain't it awful and something's wrong, you know, because our whole patterns of living changed. And so it's very easy, especially when you have to put on masks and gloves, perhaps as we do in Broward County here, to go even, you know, to the store or the post office. That's a constant reminder that it's dangerous out here. So it's easy to get into something's wrong. And I noticed when I talked to my students, we were finishing up the Joe Dispenza class, and we were doing a follow-up with how we were doing with the meditation that was prescribed in that book. The name of the book was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And so, but I know all of us were having trouble meditating. It's just, life is just too crazy right now to meditate. None of us were being able to continue with our practice of meditation, which was being so enjoyed by us. It was so life altering. And then all this chaos, we weren't able to do it because we were getting into the meaning we were giving the situation, which is, this is awful.
And you're not allowing ourselves to be mindful of the moment, waiting for the moment to get better, or waiting for that moment to be over so we can do what's important. Assigning value to everything rather than assigning value to the moment. And that assignment of value to each and every moment that allows us to breathe into, experience, and savor the taste of that moment is actually where living needs to take place. And if there's anything I've discovered after being kept in the house for so long a time, and is that so much of my life is not about living. It's about getting to the point where I could start living without even realizing it. I get up in the morning, and I don't get up in the morning to be in the middle of the morning. I get up in the morning to get whatever I need to get done in the morning so I can do the next thing that I need to do so that I can do the things I need to do for the rest of the day. So that at the end of the day, I can then embrace the day, which by the way is now spent because I spent my entire day getting ready for the next event. We're so event oriented and so process oriented that we don't actually often have the experience of just savoring the taste of every single moment. I was thinking about meditation as a form of spiritual connection, but also a comparison came to mind that I want to share. We hadn't bicycled for a while, and the weather was either this way or that way, and for whatever reason we weren't, and we've gotten back to bicycling. And the first day we got on the bicycles, it was, oh my God, this is wonderful. The breeze, the feeling of the air,
Being in nature.
All of that just felt so good to us. And I thought, this reminded me of the first time I ever meditated. I think the Buddhists call it the sleeping lion, meaning you go into the cave of meditation and the lions are all asleep, and you wake up to this experience of a world you've never seen, and think, oh my God, this is incredible. The next day we got on the bikes again, and everything that could possibly hurt from the ride before hurt. And we weren't enjoying the ride. We were comparing the ride, the second day ride with the first day ride, living in the comparison and in the pain. The second day of meditation for me was, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be exciting. I can hardly wait to see what I'm going to get next. And I noticed that my nose itched, and I noticed that my head itched, and I noticed that other parts of me itched, and that I was thinking about how long was it going to take, and I was waiting for the good part. And the second meditation was the kind of meditation that you don't want to do. I wasn't able to be mindful. That is, I wasn't able to be in the moment. I was in the assessment and comparison of yesterday's experience and today's experience. So I think it's really critical for us, if we can, to become mindful again. And I think we have to keep deciding to be mindful again and again and again, or we can't meditate.
Yeah, I like that, that the lions are awake, because that's what happened for me when, in addition to the ain't it awful, people can die, was that, closing the chat box there, I did have some really scary things happen within my family. And so that double whammy really had, I lost my equilibrium. I lost my spiritual practices. I just went into constant worry and upset. And
You were the only one.
yeah, right, I know.
There was no part of me that could be any. Well, you keep watching the news and you wait for it, and now I've got numbers. Like that, now that I've got numbers, I have some control over this. And there's a variety of explanations for this virus as well, like a couple of hundred. And now that I've got explanations for this virus, I've got something. I don't know what it is I've got, but I've got something. I've got explanations. I've got cause and effect relationships that are brewing in the background. Until finally you come back to, the virus is the virus, and it is wherever it is. How am I living in the moment? How am I living this life right now? And am I being distracted by the 10,000 stories of the origin of the virus and the impact it's going to have and the number of people that have been done in by it? Somehow, though, there's this illusion that if I gave enough attention to the news and I learned enough, there would be a cure in that learning. There would be a solution.
Or it would go away.
It would, yeah,
It would end.
I've got
I
the
watch
numbers.
The news because I want to see it's over.
Yeah, and we wake up in the morning, turn on the TV, wonder what the numbers are. 578. You look at yourself, I'm not one of them. That's good.
Or what's happening in Florida? Which counties are closed and which ones are opening? And
if that served us, if the explanations that are being offered online, and now the new stories of possible collusion with governments to destroy us from some other place, or Martians having finally found the right virus to kill us all off with, if all of that really helped us cope with the day, I would say let's get more of it. But in fact, it simply feeds the story that we shouldn't be attending to the moment. We should be attending to information about past moments and wonder about future moments and live in that zone of no place, because you can't live in the past and you can't live in the future. And the now is completely gone.
So let's talk about the meaning we've given it that's kind of shifted things for us this week. Okay. So what we've started doing this week is, look for the good and praise it. We are finding good. We're finding we actually are enjoying this routine of being home together all the time. We actually are shifting into a more healthful practices of like healthful eating, instead of, oh my God, I've got to have enough food in the house for a month or two. Let's buy all the stuff that I usually don't eat because I might not be able to get there to get it. Like cookies.
There could be a mass shortage of cookies, chocolate, ice cream, and food that
I didn't buy ice cream.
I know, but these are the staples that have actually, studies have shown. People that eat a lot of chocolate and cookies live longer during an epidemic or pandemic than those who don't. I know that because I made up those studies, and we continue to. We've actually we have become food storage centers. That is, our bodies have become food storage centers. I don't know how many times I've been to the kitchen and finally had to say, Judith, if you bring any more cookies into the house, I'm throwing them away before they even get open. Because once they're open, even though you bought them, and even though I have exquisite control, I will eat as many as you do, and I will count them. Because all I have in this life are the cookies that you brought in. It gets crazy. It really gets crazy. I mean, and I've talked to other people who've said, I consume 2 weeks' food in 1 week. Yeah, well, normally you're not home able to go to the refrigerator 700 times in an hour, Yeah,
so we sort of got control over that this week, but we're looking for the good. What are the good things? We're actually enjoying being together. We're enjoying being home all day. Bob's doing great progress on writing a book.
25,000 words.
And I'm starting to enjoy my neighbors that we usually don't have time for each other. Yesterday afternoon, At 5 o'clock, we had some neighbors sitting outside enjoying a drink and enjoying the end of the day in the cool weather. We pulled our chairs outside. We're about 20 feet apart. And then another neighbor next door saw us and she pulled her chair out. And we actually enjoyed just sitting there chatting and enjoying a happy hour together.
I was thinking as I was sitting out there getting ready for thinking in my mind about some of this today, and I thought, if each of you would send us a check for $5,000, I could quit my part-time job and I could spend all of my time doing two things: writing my new book and counting the money. It does make it.
But we did get our, what do they call that check?
Oh yes, yeah, the whatever the support
Stimulus, the stimulus
support check, right?
Yeah, we did.
And it
get
made a
that.
big
Did
difference.
anybody else get theirs in their
Just
bank
nod your head,
account
yes.
this week?
No.
Aw. Well, I don't want to celebrate without you. Some of you are saying yes.
Yeah. So, but I want to get back to this assigning meaning to things. Years ago, when I was in training for the mental health profession, one of the classes I took was named naming. And I thought, this is a crazy class to have to take. Well, the psychiatrist that was teaching it was exquisite in his training and background. And he said, naming gives us a false sense of power. When we name a thing, we believe somehow unconsciously that we now control it, that we own it. And I can remember, the first time I saw, I was out on a nature walk with other people showing them the animals, and we saw a hawk, and somebody said, "What kind of bird is that?" And I said, "It's a red-tailed hawk." "Oh, okay, next." The next time I went out on that same kind of a walk with another group of people, somebody said, "What kind of bird is that?" I said, "I don't know." And what I noticed is I spent more time looking at it, but once it was named, they were done with it. We feel control, we get a sense of control when we can name a thing that's really not control at all. It's just an illusion. What we could do is be with the thing rather than with the name. Now, the original purpose of the course was, of course, to help us with not getting lost in diagnosis. And that is the diagnosis very often for most of us. "Oh, I know what that is. Is that like the cure?" "Yeah, it's pretty close." "How is it? Well, I've named it." "Because strep throat." "Okay, well, strep throat, you've named it." Actually, after you've named it, you have to treat it. And the only reason that you would even name it is to have a protocol for what you might want to do that could be helpful to change or undo it. If we're going to name something, we want to ask ourselves, having named it, does it mean something new to me? Does it mean something different to me? Have I gotten closer to it? And I think in particular with the Me Too movement and that I've been following very closely, I've watched some of the actors who had extraordinary hits. That is, they were exquisite actors, playing wonderful parts, having great movies produced, that now you can't find the movies on TV, because once we have assigned value to the individual who played, that person is no longer an actor worth watching. And that's sad. I understand it, but it's sad.
Once you've assigned condemnation.
Right. We've said that person is not somebody I want to spend time with. Well, you first off never did. That person is now really an awful person. Does that mean that all of the roles they played and the movies they played are no longer valuable or no? Yes, it does. I'm sorry, I can't. When you notice yourself doing that, then the question isn't about whether that's right or wrong for that individual. The question is, how often do you do that in your daily living? How often do you prejudge an individual when you first see them based on things you don't even realize are included in your assessment, and then you live that out?
So speaking of assessment, I wanted to see, this is helpful to me. I hope it will be helpful to you. When I'm feeling off, and sometimes you can't even name the feeling, something's not right. You're just not feeling happy. And the first thing you want to do is try to identify what the feeling is. And I think what everybody's been feeling some of lately is anxiety. Anxiety is this low grade of fear.
It's a mild headache.
People are dying all around. There can also be sadness if you actually lose someone or have someone get really ill. So it's generally, when you're trying to identify what's going on with you, it's generally not happiness. If you're happy, you're happy, you're happy, and you don't need to explore anymore. But if there's this uncomfortable feeling, you try to identify what it is, and then identify, why is it I'm feeling this way? What am I saying to myself that's making me feel this way? Because it's really your self-talk. And that self-talk is generally an assessment of the situation. It can, ain't it awful? This is awful. I can't I can't go spend time with my loved ones. I can't go out of the house much. The pool is closed, the beach is closed, everything I like doing is closed. So you just review, well, what am I saying to myself? Then I would urge you to look for the good and praise that. Just shift your attention from what's awful to what is right in the world. We've talked about this before, but there's a lot of good to be seen from what's happening right now. That people are getting to connect with each other like we are right now on Zoom is fabulous. Here we are miles away from each other and we can still connect and chat and see each other. People are getting better with that, while at the same time disconnecting a bit from the social media that has distanced us from each other. We're always watching those dings and checking our phones and things like that, and worried about what the comments are from what we posted on Facebook or Instagram, instead of really being with each other. So I think this pandemic is helping us really appreciate relationships, the quality of them.
Yeah, I think another way of looking at this is every day is the best day of your life. Every day is the day you've been waiting for, and whatever happens in it opens the door to the possibilities of something greater. When we assign value to the day because it's here, we decide to live into the day because we can, and we say yes to every expression that we experience, we then have not only stepped into the garden of life, we have begun to smell all the flowers. We've begun to notice everything that's going on. I want to make a couple more comments because we're getting close to the time for closing on Facebook, but we're going to continue on here on Zoom. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time on Facebook or wherever you're tuning in from, Judith and I are part of a movement called the Centers for Spiritual Living, and I'm going to hold up that little that poem. Okay. And for those of you that would like to support us, you can come to our site, and if you will go to our site, there's a donate button, and if you donate, then what that means for us is we can continue not only do this, but we can continue all of the outreach and all of the classes and all of the work that we're doing, and to support our center. And what most of you already know is that when a business doesn't open its doors, it doesn't then stop having rent or expenses. So being ministers of the Centers for Spiritual Living is actually an expensive proposition, and one we take very seriously. If you can support us, that would be wonderful. And if you can't, that's fine. Maybe one day you will be able to. And Judith's going to close us with a reading, and then we're going to go off of YouTube or off of Facebook and continue.
Zoom. Oh, and Facebook.
Continue for a few minutes.
With all our social media.
And I'm going to step out from behind me.
I'm going to close. This is one of Ernest Holmes' thoughts for the day. And if you want to, you can close your eyes and just let it be like a closing meditation. Because I'm one with God, I am one with all people. Because I'm one with life, I am one with everything that lives. I feel my union with people and with nature. I feel that I belong to life. I love life and I enter into the joy of living. I enter into companionship with others, into cooperation with them. And I know that something within me reaches out and embraces the whole world. Something within me blesses everything it touches, brings life and happiness and joy to everyone. Something in me acts as a healing balm, restoring everything to its natural and native perfection. As I silently listen to the spirit within me and think of its perfection, I know that I'm being born into joy and hope and gladness, born into love and faith and assurance. As I silently release every negative thought from my mind, I release it and let it go. And I too pray, quote, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us. And so it is.